Utility modules come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, from little clock tools to signal rectifiers and CV controllers. There's literally too much to mention. In this video I go over 5 favorite utility modules I use for signal flow duties. Meaning these modules are great for handling everyday audio and CV tasks like mixing, attenuating and level control, but also have features that add more creative signal flow duties, like panning, crossfading, polarizing and so on. That mix of everyday value plus added interesting functions and features is what define this list, and why I keep using these modules. If you like to support my videos, or you want to get access to PDF sheets with hundreds of patch ideas I used in my videos, have a look at my Patreon. But now, let's dive right in. First up is an old favorite. I made a video about this module years ago, but it found its way back into my core case. It's the Metabolic Devices Papomi. It's a slightly quirky package, but can really tie a system together, as it's a very clever set of useful features in a reasonable size. The module has 2 distinct different sections. The lower section here is a pretty straightforward 3-input mixing section. There's one unity gain input and there are 2 inputs with attenuverters. On top of that, there's a bipolar offset control to add or subtract a steady voltage to the mix. This section can handle both audio and CV very well and has a mix output here. That mix output is normal to the upper section of the module, but you can also use that section completely independent using its own input here. This section is pretty clever as it's both a panner and polarizer in one. The mix or input signal here is panned to the left and right outputs depending on the master control. But at the same time, that input signal is coming out here, regular or inverted, depending on that same master control. Of course, the panning and polarizing control has a CV input with bipolar attenuator here. I brought this module back into the core system because the combination of mixing, panning and polarizing in a small package adds a lot. Panning is great for stereo audio duties as well as creative CV distributing. And polarizers are great for inverting, complex CV mangling as well as ring modulation duties. In particular though, this module is a lot of fun to set up audio feedback paths. Let's have a look at a simple drone example. Here, a single sine wave oscillator is sent to the unity input of Papomi's mixer section. The polarizer output is sent to 2 low-pass filters, panned hard left and right to create a stereo signal. The left and right pan outputs of Papomi are used to modulate the left and right filters. A second sine wave oscillator is used to modulate the polarizer and panner section of Papomi. And that oscillator is modulated with a smooth random voltage, swinging the speed of the modulator from LFO to audio rates. This creates an interesting combination of ring mod-like sounds with stereo audio rate filter modulation. On top of that, a copy of the audio outputs of each filter is sent back to the mixer to add subtle feedback flavor to the sound. This is just a core patch. It can be extended a lot by processing the feedback signals more. Next up is a module that hit me a bit by surprise. It's a great module for core signal flow tasks, but its special feature inspired a new way of patching and thinking about signal flow. It's the A2V MM. These modules always come in a set of 2. Each individual unit is a pretty simple 4-channel mixer. The first 2 inputs have regular attenuators, and the 3rd and 4th inputs have bipolar attenuators. On top of that, the 4th input is normal to a 10-volt offset signal, so if no input is patched, it can add a steady range of -10 to +10 volt to the mix. The twist though is that these modules can be connected on the back, in which case the first 3 inputs of the first module are normal to the first 3 inputs of the second module. This creates a compact 2-channel matrix mixer. If you want to, you can even chain more modules. Basic mixing is always a great feature to have, from mixing different oscillator waveforms to stacking modulation signals to a filter and so on. But I got used to my 4x4 matrix mixer and even a 6x6 stereo matrix mixer, so I thought I'd have matrix mixing covered. But because the module is so compact, it really invites you to patch interesting interaction between two synth or drum voices, and that's something I like to do all the time. These modules make simple multiplying and inverting possible without using a lot of separate modules. Here's a simple example with two simple mono voices I use all the time in my live case. The 2mm module outputs are patched to the filters, so filter modulation can be stacked for each voice. The first input of each mixer receives a unique envelope triggered by the sequencer for that voice. An LFO is sent to the second unipolar input of the first mm, and the third slow random voltage is sent to the third bipolar input of the first mm. Both the LFO and random voltage are normal to the second mm, so the LFO and random can easily be applied to one or both voices. Next up, we have a module with a quite unconventional approach, and in all honesty could be a bit confusing at start. But just like others in this video, it ended up being a very valuable combination of both common use everyday functions and interesting features. It's the Synth Black Ring X-Fade. When trying to understand this module, it helps to break it down in three independent sections. First off, there are two independent ring modulators, each with carrier input, modulator input, and modulation amount control. This module is great for audio, which is why I think they went to call these ring modulators, but of course, ring modulators are just polarizers. Both channels can be used to polarize control voltages as well, meaning they can attenuate, invert, act as VCAs, and so on, depending on how you patch them. The third part of this module is a crossfader, again completely independent with two inputs here, a manual balance control, a CV input, and the CV level control. Crossfading is the inversed panner and a great feature to create interesting audio or CV signal modulation. Again, the crossfader can be used as a simple mixer, attenuator or VCA depending on how it's patched. This all adds to the module being used as a daily signal control module. But when all sections are used as part of a single audio mangling process, the module can create very complex audio signals. Here's a quick audio example with a single sine wave oscillator used as carrier for both ring mod sections. Two other audio rate sine wave oscillators with different frequencies are used as modulators. The outputs of the ring modulators are used as inputs for the crossfader using the internal normalization of the module. The crossfader is modulated with an LFO to swing the balance between the two ring mod sounds. VCAs are the key ingredient to a lot of modular fun and patches. There are many why you can't have enough VCA videos, but in fact there are many modules that can function like a VCA but also do a lot more. In my main studio case there aren't as many regular VCAs. The module doing the heavy lifting here is Archon from Maelstrom. There are actually two of these in my case, taking care of any complex CV task. This module is a bit harder to grasp. I made a full video about it a while ago though if you like the full tour. In short, each module has two identical sections. Each section has a 2-input mixer, one input with polarity switch and a massive amount of gain, so it can add distortion and clipping if you want. The other input has an attenuverter and is linked to an offset voltage. This section alone is great for all those tasks I mention all the time and use every day, mixing, attenuating and adding offset. But I'm surprised how often I end up using the gain as well, just pushing a trigger, gate or audio to the level needed by another module or clipping CV signals a bit to shape them. After the 2-input mix, each section has a polarizer. The large knob controls the signal output strength when no CV input is patched, and the modulation strength when a CV is patched. With unipolar signals like envelopes, the module can be used as a VCA, but bipolar CV signals will polarize the mix. Again, on this module, this function is called a polarizer, but can be used with audio as a ring modulator as well, with added gain, clipping and offset, and the curvature control adds even more subtle audio and CV manipulation. Archon is another module that works great for all sorts of day-to-day tasks, but this one feels like it can always go a bit deeper when you want it to. I enjoy exploring and shaping complex and creative CV signal movement with this module a lot. Here's a simple example using a single oscillator voice as the start. A sequencer is tuning the oscillator and triggering a very short envelope, modulating the filter just a bit to add some structure. The more interesting filter modulation is created with a single channel of Archon used as a dual input polarizer. A second triggered envelope with some shape modulation is used as one input and the simple LFO as the second input. A smooth random voltage is polarizing the mix to create interesting modulation movement. Last up is a module balancing a bit more on the edge of a knife. On one side it's a bit less of a use everyday module than the others, which is why I mentioned it last. But on the other side it's really quite unique and powerful. It left my cases a few times but always finds its way back and it's a joy to use. It's the Euronalog Morph 4. Like almost all Euronalog modules, this is a very versatile and creative module that might be a bit confusing to get started with. An attempt to explain it in short would be saying it's a quad VCA. These VCAs can be used independently. Each has an input, output and level control with CV input. But the unique addition to this module is the morph section here. This controls all VCAs at the same time. Imagine the morph control as a single axis range that can open all 4 VCAs during a specific section of that range. The section that sets when each VCA is opened is controlled by a position and span setting. Each VCA has manual controls for that position and span, and CV inputs for those parameters as well. Creating a range of different settings allows the morph control to, well, morph through the different VCA peaks. Of course, the morph control has a CV input and there are clever input normalizations and additional outputs. Have a look at my full video on the module if you like a better in-depth explanation. In any case, the module can be used as simple attenuators, mixers and VCAs, but also as a quad panner, dual panner, multi-channel crossfader, complex wave shaper, voltage controlled mixer and a lot more. Again, that mix of usable functions is what makes a module like this interesting. Here's a very simple audio distribution example with the voice created in a previous chapter as input for Morph 4. The 4 channel outputs are sent to a mix of audio effects, mostly delays and one granular processor. A smooth random voltage is used to modulate the morph with the control set up to create a quad panner. This swings the audio input to 4 different destinations. If you'd like to learn more about any of these modules, have a look at the videos I made about them. And as always, smash that like, subscribe and bell button if you'd like to see more modular content from me. But that's it for now, thanks for watching and see you next time.